And welcome everyone to the Pensacola Perspective. I am Jabril Suleiman, your host for today's show, and I have a very special guest, a dear friend of mine that I've known for a while, Mr. Lloyd Reshard. Of course, the point of this show, the Pensacola Perspective, is to put guys like Lloyd on give him a platform to put these guys out to the social media public, to the watchers of the Pensacola Perspective, and so that he can, guys like him can actually give out information about the initiatives, the projects that he has going on, and to just really educate the public, to give guys like him a platform of media exposure that he wouldn't normally get in the first place. Lloyd Reshard is definitely here today and ready to go. Welcome, Lloyd.
Hello, Jabril. How are you?
Hey, I'm fine. I'm fine. Little early morning jitters a little bit. Actually, early afternoon jitters a little bit. So excuse me. It's a live show. It doesn't matter. We're gonna keep it going.
Right.
Lloyd, you are with the Pensacola Network. You've started this networking event. But you've been in the business, or this has been a hobby of yours, networking and specializing in connecting people for some time. How did you get started? What got you started into the networking business in the first place?
Yes, I always loved attending networking events throughout my career. And then in the early 90s, I believe it was, I was living over in Okaloosa County, and there was a gentleman named Arden Farley over there that was doing networking events, and all of a sudden he stopped because he went off to get his PhD. So I sort of picked it up from there, and I've been doing it since the early 90s and been enjoying it ever since.
Now, as long as I've known you, from what I remember, you've started several networking events before the Pensacola Network. Can you go over some of those events, where they were located? Now, as you have already alluded to, you picked up the ball that was dropped as far as networking events in Okaloosa County. Just talk about that a little bit. Those prior networking events.
Right. I worked at Eglin Air Force Base for the Air Force Research Laboratory, and was part of Blackfin government, and we started a networking event on the base, and it was called the Third Wednesday Networking. And so we did that for several years there, and then we transitioned off the base in the late 90s, and we eventually started the First Friday Networking over there in the late 90s, and we've been doing it ever since. And about little less than 8 years ago, I remarried, and I met Robin and I moved over here. And
Robin Reshard, that's your wife. That's one half of the networking team. Is that correct?
Yes, and so it's an interesting half. So we were married, and we were doing. She was helping with the networking event over in Fort Walton, and so but what was interesting, I didn't ever leverage her ability to interview people over there. I kind of stumbled on that by accident, and it turned out to really make a difference in the events. When I moved over here after I got married, folks kept asking me to start an event over here, but of course, doing a monthly event is pretty challenging. So I wasn't really in a hurry to kind of get one going over here. And then finally, about 2 years ago, a little more, we started talking to Gulf Power and some folks to try to help us get this event over here started. And Gulf Power actually stepped up to the plate to help us get it started. And the community followed suit, and we've been going now for a little over a year and a half here in Pensacola.
So the Pensacola Network, it's held on the traditional, as a lot of us know, the blocks, but it's historic Black downtown Pensacola there. Is that correct?
Yes, it's a historic Belmont, the Villers, and I wasn't overly familiar with the area But about 6.5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, Robin got an office down here, and I found out about the space through networking. So that's a little plug for networking. We were
Right.
having, just to give you a little background, we were doing our first Friday networking event over in Fort Walton, and Tony McCrae actually was over at one of our events, and he mentioned that there was some office space for rent, and it was only about $250 a month. And so I got back home, and I told Robin, I said, we need to go take a look at this. And matter of fact, you probably need to get an office up there. So she tells the story. I kicked her out of the house, you know, to actually get going over here.
Right, right, right. Now, what's the actual format of the Pensacola Network? It's networking, then there's a discussion. How does that work now?
Yes, and that's what's kind of unique about our event as well. We do an hour and a half of networking from 5 to 6:30, and then we do some community announcement or sponsor announcements, and then we have what we call a panel discussion where Robin interviews a single guest or a multiple guest, and we record that and post those videos on the web, and then we have a question and answer session after that, and then we follow that up with some more networking.
Where can they find those videos of the actual discussions?
The videos are at pensacolanetwork.com/video.
Okay, pensacolanetwork.com/video. And of course, you guys have a fan page for the Pensacola Network as well. What's the URL to the fan page?
The fan page on where if you go into Facebook, it's just the Pensacola Network spelled out. And the same way with LinkedIn, and I think on Twitter it's the Pensacola Network.
Now, I mean, you're an advocate. I mean, you are a big advocate for networking. I mean, you've already explained to me these stories before, but can you explain one of those stories? From what you've explained to me, every job that you've ever held in your life is not because you had to actually walk in as an unknown. It was you obtained that job through a relationship of knowing someone else that knew someone else, and hence networking. Is that correct?
Yes, that is basically correct, and I never paid attention to that until I heard this story on public radio about African Americans not leveraging their network for jobs, whereas the average white American they leverage their networks to actually get jobs, and it's not just about the job; it's about moving forward in your life, and a job does help you move forward, it helps you get out of poverty, but as a young person, in high school, I discovered a little bit more about, networking through my teachers. My English teacher, for example, she wanted me to kind of do a better job in English, and so she wanted to give me some motivation. So she told me I should go talk to her husband, which was a lawyer, and learn the importance of English. And so that's sort of got me started. I started talking to other people about, my interests, and they started telling me things, including scholarships and you name it, jobs, everything. So it's really important to talk about.
At the beginning, I was going to give a little introduction. I've had a habit of giving an extra introduction of how we know each other and what impact you as a guest has had on me, and I decided not to do that, and I want to explain that now, though.
Okay.
I've attended about 90% of your networking events.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, I've been a business person here in Pensacola for many years, and but I've been in a shell. I've been in a bubble, and as I explained to anyone who inquires about the Gulf Coast African American Chamber of Commerce or the Pensacola Network or any type of organization that allows you to meet other business people, it bursts that bubble around you. Then once that bubble is burst, you as a business person has to have the opportunity to network with these other business people. They have the opportunity to give you advice from a business perspective and standpoint that you would never have gotten anywhere else, because you're so used to dealing with yourself and your customers. Your customers aren't going to tell you how to improve your business. Other business people are going to be able to do that. So just from a business person perspective, I know we talked about finding jobs through networking or finding employers through networking, but that's the personal actually impact that being part of the Pensacola Network has had on me, because there's several people that I would never have met. The first time I met the mayor was at the Pensacola networking event, but so many other people that I've built relationships with through this town, through the city, it was through the Pensacola Network. So I do want to just explain, my personal story in connection with what you've been able to do to impact my life with this movement.
Yeah. Well, Jabril, just like you, I've had the opportunity to meet those folks as well through the Pensacola Network. Because had not it been for the Pensacola Network, I may have not had the opportunity to do that. So that's what's great about the Pensacola Network.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is, and I think it's going to go very far and continuing on that culture of meeting, greeting, having some hors d'oeuvres, having wine or water, depending on your preference, and so forth. And so that's great. Who's the team? I explained that you and Robin, you guys are the team as far as the founders of this movement. But just talk about the rest of the team that helps make everything happen.
Yes, I definitely want to do that, but I think I didn't do a good job on telling people what the Pensacola Network actually is.
Let's do that. Let's do that.
Yes, so the Pensacola Network is basically, the idea is to develop a network in the true sense of what a network is, and to have an event called the Pensacola Network. But the whole purpose of networking is to make connections and build those connections, strengthen those connections. But the reason why you do that is you want to become aware of resources that can help you as an individual grow, help you as an organization grow, you as a business, you as a student. It doesn't really matter. And the Pensacola Network is actually a community networking event. So it's a grassroots effort that what I noticed when I moved over here was that there wasn't a regularly scheduled networking event that catered to the African American community. And furthermore, there wasn't typically you don't see networks that events that cater to the community. And that's the big difference in the Pensacola Network. It doesn't matter who you are, you can come to the Pensacola Network. And so part of economic growth in a community is making connections and finding out about jobs, finding out about business opportunities, getting ideas to expand your business, and on and on. And so that's what, if you don't have a regularly scheduled event, how can you have that conversation that allows ideas to come forth to actually grow your community? It's the cheapest thing you can do. It's a grassroots effort thing you can do. Another problem I noticed here in the community was the ability for the greater community to connect with the African American community. And so it's important to have a venue and a mechanism to make those connections, because a lot of times the African American community or any part of the minority community has a different perspective or view of the Gulf Powers, the news, Pensacola News Journal, whoever. And so part of the idea of the networking is to help people get to know each other a little bit and dispel some of the misperceptions that someone may have about the African American community, or what somebody may have about a company in the community.
And I do want to talk about that theme, expand on that a little bit more. Okay. The theme of the Pensacola Network is for the greater community to meet the African American community, the African American business community, and I've seen that theme pushed. Some of the publicity and the P&J and so forth, it's always some pushback against that where people don't understand that fact. But there are plenty of people that do, and they come out in droves to these networking events that you guys have put on. And so when I walk into the building there is a split where it's 40-60, or where there is a lot of the the members of the greater business community that are coming to this event to meet these African Americans and to actually hear what they have to say and to talk to them and to eat and drink with them to a big extent.
Yes, and that's great, and I think the historic Belmont the Villars, it actually is a area where folks really feel comfortable getting together, and the area also sets a great example of how you can grow a community and so on and so forth. So I can now I can tell you a little bit about the team and.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, part of the challenge in putting on an event, you need to have a place, you need to have food, you need to have, sound system, you need to have chairs, you need to have publicity, you need all these things, and if you had to pay for all those things, it would be cost prohibitive. So the first thing I did, I said we got to sell on the venue, and I said here in the Village Square. I talked to Eddie Todd, and I said, well, this is what my idea is. And he said, no problem, let's do it. I talked to Reverend Powell of Truth for Youth. I said, we need some chairs and a sound system. He said, no problem, we can do it. And I said, well, I asked Reverend, I said, who do we need to get to cater the food? And she said, Joyce, Food for the Soul. And so I contacted Joyce, no problem. And so just on, and we had partners like the Kinky Sisters to help with the hosting. We had the Collegiate 100 from UWF to help with the hosting, and just so on, just the idea of getting the event kicked off. And then finally, our biggest partners are our sponsors, and that was really amazing to me how the community came on board to sponsor a networking event to kind of make a difference in the community.
So you've had this great support base through different smaller community, or not, I can't say smaller, but just through other community-based organizations that have come out to help you. And I do want to talk about that sponsorship element. This isn't free. You can't do this for free,
Right.
And this isn't something for you guys to laugh to the bank on or anything. It is a community effort, and it takes money to put initiatives like this together. So those sponsors, and my company, Paysale Systems, we've been a sponsor last year, and I need to renew my sponsorship again for this year.
Or I'll call you.
For 2015. So talk about the different sponsorship levels. Talk, if you want to point out, I assume Gulf Power was one of your first sponsors. Talk about some of those sponsorship levels and how can people sponsor the Pensacola Network.
Yes, so we have what we call founding sponsors, and those sponsors actually either wrote a check for $2,500 or did some in-kind service for $2,500. Like we have media sponsors like the Pensacola News Journal. We have the WAR Channel 3 as a media sponsor, the Pensacola Voice, WRNE as a media sponsors, and so and then we have what we call our corporate sponsors. Those folks pay $1,250 for the corporate sponsorship. And what's different about these sponsorships than what they do at the chamber is that what we do is, for that sponsorship, we work with you on connecting with the community. Whatever you're trying to do, we leverage the network to help you do that. The next level of sponsorship we have is the organizational and small business sponsorships, and those are $500. And what we do for those sponsorships, we help network with those small businesses to actually grow their business, because literally that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to grow small businesses. And then we also have individual sponsorship for $100 a year. And so that's where we get the funding to do the Pensacola Network.
You touched on it a little bit, and I do want you to explain here that you are competing with any chambers or anything, any of the chambers of commerce. Just clearly, if you could define the difference in what you guys are offering in the Pensacola network versus what is probably more so offered in a traditional chamber of commerce.
Well, it's definitely not trying to compete with the Chamber of Commerce. As a matter of fact, the, the Greater Pensacola Chamber of Commerce is actually the second major sponsor that we have for the event, as well as the Gulf Coast African American Chamber is a sponsor of the event. So it's definitely not trying to compete with the chamber. The purpose of the chamber networking, chambers are to network with the members of the chamber and grow the membership of the chamber and help people in the chamber do business with each other. But that helps grow the chamber and helps grow the businesses that belong to the chamber. Whereas the Pensacola Network is a community networking event. So the theme is to grow your community, help identify resources in the community where if I'm a high school student looking for a scholarship, I can through the network and I can get connected to that. Or if I want to start a business, I can get connected to someone who can help me. Or if I need a mentor, it doesn't matter what you need. And so the part about networking that people don't get a lot of times is no matter what level you are, you can connect with someone or somebody. And so people say, well, it's not a business networking event, so I'm not going to go. But the bottom line is you may find that next employee. You may find somebody that's got some expertise that can help your company grow. Vice versa. So it's an amazing, simple thing you can do to move forward in your life. And my career, starting off as a kid, through these connections, I had a very successful career.
Right. And I've noticed that part of the demographic of the people who actually come to the Pensacola networking events, which are every fourth Friday, right? And we had established every fourth Friday, starting at 5 p.m. The demographic of the type of people that actually come, you do find those high school kids that are looking to meet business individuals that possibly could hire them, but then you're looking for those kids that just really want to get out of the box and understand how networking works, because that's something that they're inspiring to do. They're aspiring to be successful. So I've seen those kids there that actually will come to the event just to network with other successful individuals. I mean, that's great. It is.
Yeah. As you were talking, I was thinking about what it takes to be successful, and it's always tell the story about my mom. She would always tell me, "Don't hang around bad, kids or bad people, because you're going to be bad." And so I kind of, flipped it around and said, what she's trying to tell me, if I hang around successful people, I will be successful. And so that's the idea of what networking is. It gets you around and connected to people that can help you be successful.
The birds of a feather flock together, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about tomorrow's event. We have tomorrow is the fourth Friday of this month, which is January. And who do you have that is coming on the show tomorrow? And just let the audience know a little bit about that.
Yes, and so as you know, at the beginning of each year, everybody has their New Year's resolutions, and you're trying to make changes to kind of grow and have a successful year. So Robin thought it would be a good idea to kick off the new year with and a lot of the resolution has to do with being physically fit and eating the right things, and but there's also a psychological aspect to that, and so she came up with this idea of having somebody that has some background in helping you develop the mindset to keep your New Year's resolution, and somebody that can take you step to step on how to be healthy, eat the right foods, and be fit. So we have a 2008 fitness Olympian, Miss Letitia Action Jackson, will be one of the panelists, and then we have Dr. Eurydice Stanley. She's a psychologist, and so she's a motivational speaker. She's um, uh, the PhD psychologist, and she's a retired lieutenant colonel, so she knows all about training and guiding and leading people in the right direction. And we also will have a what we call the expert row. So in the first row of the audience, we will have some other experts that are involved, to help the conversation along. We have Ms. LaDonna Spivey, Ms. Brittany. I can't think of Brittany's last name, but she has a business in physical fitness. LaDonna does the same. And then we also have another psychologist, Kenya Wiggins. She's a professor or works at UWF.
Good deal, good deal. And those that sound like some great guests. I think it's always going to be a very successful event. One thing I do want to make sure that anyone who's interested in attending these events, don't be intimidated. It's a very casual environment. We're having fun there. We're meeting people. If you do, high school kids, if you do come, or anybody who actually is really serious about networking, make sure you come with some business cards, of course. We do have, if you register ahead of time, you'll have your name badge there to accept at the door, right? You still give out the name badges, correct?
Well, yeah, we give out the name badges, but what we decided to do in the last 6 months or so was just to write out the name badges, ask the people.
Allow them to do it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good deal. Well, if you're really serious about networking, you're going to come with your own already anyway.
Right.
Definitely make sure you have your business cards there. It's the Pensacola Network every fourth Friday of the month, starting at 5 p.m. on the corner of Belmonts and De Villers.
Yeah.
Right across from, if you know what Five Sisters Cafe is, it's right across from Five Sisters Blues Cafe. So definitely, Lloyd Reshard, it was a pleasure having you on the show today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, can I tell one last story, Jabril?
Sure, go ahead.
So I mentioned briefly, I heard about this office space over here in historic Belmont Villas from Tony McCrae at a networking event. So can you imagine the power from that one connection and me becoming aware of that and see where we are now?
It's the ripple effect of life.
Yeah,
it is. That one pebble dropped, and now we're here right now talking about a movement, a networking event that has gone on for, what is this, the 18th month? Or I know December's in December you don't hold it. So, but this is a year and a half of networking now that has successfully occurred in Pensacola.
And my career basically started the same way. When I was in high school, my counselor told me to go take up a trade so I can earn enough money to pay my way. And I just happened to meet my industrial arts teacher, and I told him what I was doing. He said, "I didn't know you were interested in electronics." But he had graduated from FAMU. He said, "Why don't you go talk to the people in the electronics department at FAMU?" And so I was at Leon High School at the time, and so it was about October time frame of my senior year in high school. So I got in my '65 Chevy, went over to Florida A&M and talked to the guy that was the department head in the electronics department. And at that very moment, he said, "I don't have but one other kid in my program from Tallahassee, and I would love to have another one. If you want to come, I got a scholarship for you." And that one pebble, I ended up winning Engineer of the Year for career achievement in government. And that's for the whole United States. From that one little pebble, you see how things can change your life.
That's the power that's the ripple effect of networking. And that's what we must understand. So guys, come on out to the Pensacola Network. If you have to get off work early, it's well worth it. If you have to find a babysitter for your kids, it's well worth it. Really, husbands, bring your wives bring your husbands out. You'll have a great time. Lloyd Reshard, it was a blast having you on. I appreciate it. This is a great event that you're always putting on, and people, even though I messed up the intro a little bit, I do want to explain to you that, hey, this is what the Pensacola perspective is all about taking initiatives that may not get much publicity. Now, Lloyd has gotten much publicity in the past from the Pensacola. He's actually exhibited in the Pensacola Today, and he's been in the Pensacola News Journal and on WEAR. Doesn't matter. We still need more publicity. It's guys like you, people out there that may not have ever known about the Pensacola Network, and this is what the Pensacola perspective is all about, highlighting these events. So until next time, guys, I'll see you on social media, Facebook, YouTube. You guys have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Jabril.